Are live. Okay. Fantastic. This is our first live video, so give us a little grace as we figure out how this actually works. Perfect. All right. Let's see if we can. We'll give it a minute here so we can see who all is joining us. It's Wednesday.
We made it to Wednesday.
Yes.
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Happy Wednesday. It's been Wednesday around here. Lots of service people in, fixing all kinds of things. But no big deal. Here we are. Okay. So it is our first Lunch and Learn. We're going to try to do this at least once a month where we connect inside our private office page to go over some really cool different topics that we have, but more importantly to get some engagement in the group and be another resource and support for everybody in the office, but specifically the people in this group. We're about 95 members in the group right now, and so we want to use this page as a way to connect with you on a little bit deeper level, have a lot more in-depth engagement, and really be a place that we can answer questions and make a little bit bigger of an impact than we can on the short visits that you are typically in the office. And so today what we're going to go through for a little while is some things that I picked up as towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year, looking at setting up your year in a healthy way, in a successful way, some tips and tricks and things to do with your calendar, and just an overall view, almost philosophy of taking on the year that might help you, again, make the most out of this year. And then we'll go through 3 action steps that you can walk away with today and hopefully implement, again, really looking at your calendar. And then at the end of this, we're going to open up for questions, and the questions can be related to what we're discussing today, or can be related to any other topics that you want to ask us questions about, and we will try to dive into that as much as we can without going through too much personal health information or anything like that, but we're certainly happy to answer any questions that you guys have for us right now.
This is a great time to actually focus on, like you said, yearly planning, because this is the time of year, believe it or not, everybody probably hit the ground running with your New Year's resolutions. And to think of this more long-term, more expansive, I think is really helpful, because it's really the 3rd week in and people are like, forget it.
I haven't gone to the gym every day, so I'm not going to the gym any days.
Right. And I think it's easy to become like resolution almost oriented, when really what will be most helpful is to be evolution minded. Yes. Growth minded.
I love that. I'm a huge, for some reason, I've always been interested in time and specifically, lifespan, I think. So I don't want to start talking about death, but there's a certain expiration time that we've all got. And so that's always been intriguing to me, I think, because a couple things. Number one, I do want to make the most out of the time that I have. But number two, if there is one thing that I hear on a daily basis that probably has an impact, but it's the most common thing I hear is it sucks to get old. It's other explicitives about getting old, right?
Right.
Like getting old sucks. I hate getting old. This is, not what I was hoping for as I get
Right.
older
I guess
and
it's
age.
just as a result of getting older.
Right.
Yes.
But mostly it's like how bad it is to get older.
Mm-hmm.
And so, over the years, it's, while I'm still young, I want to make the most out of life, until, I won't say until I get old, but I want to set myself up for success when I do get older.
Yes.
And so if anything that we can do today helps you set yourself up for success as you're aging or getting older, that would be my biggest takeaway from today is time is undefeated, right? Like there's no beating time. The only way to necessarily move the needle with that is to make the most out of the time that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what today's really going to be about is being super hyper intentional with your time so that you can make the most of that. So I don't know, years ago, probably 5 to 10 years ago, I had this giant bowl of marbles. And I read this somewhere and I thought it was an amazing idea just as a reminder of like, okay, make the most out of your time. So essentially I calculated up, okay, this is how old I am. This is essentially my life expectancy. So I've got, 40 years left times the number of weeks in those years. And so that's how many marbles I had. And then at the end of the week, I'd take out a marble. And so as a reminder of, look, represents a week. Number one, what did I just do with this week? And number two, what do I want to do with the week ahead? And so I got into trouble because the kids loved the marbles, and so they started taking all my marbles. And I was trying to explain to them, like, no, you have to leave those marbles there.
How appropriate.
Yes. There's probably a lot of truth to that. And so, creating ways to remind yourself and create urgency this year, I think is super important. I don't think, coming up with, figuring out how many marbles you have left is maybe not to be the best idea, but anything that helps you to create urgency this year so that you're making the most out of this time and setting yourself up and planning for success, I think makes a big difference.
I do like to live life as far as time speaks. This is the only moment we have, is the one that we have right here, right now. It's the moment we're connecting. It's the moment that we're living. So living those moments intentionally with attention to, that forward momentum. What am I doing with my time in this moment that it is going to, and you talked about the memories. Can you share those memories? Can you share the memories? How many more memories?
Yeah, so we're going to get to that.
Okay.
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
That's under the action steps.
Okay, got it.
But yes, it ties into that tremendously about being intentional about creating memories.
Mm.
And so as we look at this in creating memories, it's not, principle number one for me looking at this year is urgency, making the most of as much time as I can, right? Number two principle as I'm looking at this year is going deeper, right? Going deeper, as I've been in practice longer, I'm a lot more inclined to want to work with more specific issues with people because I like that. That's my sweet spot. I am gravitating towards that. There's certain things that people come into the office with and I'm just like, yes, we can help that. I don't, we may not love to help with those sorts of things,
Right.
but obviously I'm happy to help the person. But having more intentionality about, I want to go deeper on a deeper level, in my learning and as we're working with clients, I think we can both agree we would much rather work with fewer people but have a much more deeper, meaningful relationship and
Yes.
with those patients and clients
Yes. And being
than
able to again take your time.
take your
Just the
time,
time and the focus and
being able to
you
slow
know,
down, honestly getting to know someone.
yes.
In a healthcare setting, I think people are craving that also.
I think so.
You know, we hear it a lot, right? I went to my doctor or I went to my specialist. They spent 2 minutes with me
Mm-hmm.
and said either surgery or call us when you have a problem later. Like there was no real relationship or you know.
Diving in, getting to the root of what we call, what I call is dis-ease.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so um, number two principle for me is deeper. So, you know, in the office, relationships, you know, what I'm learning, um, you know, instead of just picking up all these cool courses or classes or, um, you know, whatever pops up in my feed,
Right,
right?
right. I call that slapping a hobby on it. Just
Yeah.
just slap whatever hobby on it.
Yep, being very intentional about
Mhm.
I'm going to be extremely more focused on my time, right?
Mhm.
And for me, it's you know I've got two kids that are in like transition years, right? So I'm looking at parenting stuff. I'm looking at you know communication and how to connect with a middle school kid. So if anyone has like an amazing resource on that, please share it in the comments because you know I'm deep into middle school right now, and you know I want to get better at that. And
I will.
so
I'll throw one out for you guys. There is an amazing book, and I will get the author and make sure to put it in. But there is a book called Conscious Parenting, and it's quite amazing as far as actually really being able to just actively, consciously listen, actively, consciously communicate, and really just dig deeper
Yeah.
with your children.
Yep.
So
It, well, and what I've been looking at and working through is Gottman. Last name is Gottman. He's got a raising emotional, intelligent kids, and so that's what I've really been kind of digging into. It's more geared towards younger kids, but there's some chapters on older children as well. But the principles are the same as far as trying to address emotions and help them understand their emotions, but also you know understanding what emotions they're feeling and as far as why they're acting that way. So, anyways, not to I'm certainly not trying to make this a parenting broadcast, but just reiterating the point, going deeper and you know, encouraging you to go deeper on a couple areas of your life and not just constantly showing up as you know whatever happens to pop up in your feed or um, um, you know you know being more intentional with life instead of life happening to you. The third one is showing up, and this plays a lot into that concept because sometimes you pick your goals and sometimes your goals pick you. And so showing up to whatever happens because sometimes you may have set a goal for I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to do this activity, I'm going to do this 5K, I'm going to do you know something like that and then you get injured or someone gets sick or you know life throws a curveball.
Yes.
And so that doesn't necessarily mean that that goal goes away.
That's right.
Maybe it does, but looking at it through a lens of it being an opportunity to shift that goal or to incorporate what you were really hoping to achieve from that goal maybe in a different way.
Right. I see that as starting to learn that everything that I'm showing up to is actually going to be process oriented rather than outcome oriented. But really being able to lean in the process of what's happening and then what that has to teach you along the way, understanding there are going to be a lot of left and right turns and a lot of up and downs. And so it's not that I had my heart set on this particular outcome, but I'm going to trust what this process is teaching me, ready? And in the moments it's teaching me.
Yeah, and I think as you're, a couple things to tie into that. Number one, let's say your goal is to run a 5K.
Mm-hmm.
What are you actually looking for in setting that goal?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is it the satisfaction of the way you're going to feel after you can say that I ran a 5K?
Right.
Is it the you're really setting a goal just to make yourself get out and move more? And so understanding that doesn't necessarily have to be, the end result. So again, if something shows up and your goals get a little off track, it doesn't mean just completely throw everything out. It's what's the underlying motive for that, and what can you do to keep that progress moving forward, and what can we do to help you? Right. I mean, that's ultimately part of this group is, we're here to support you in that. And as an office, we want to be hyper intentional about that this year, is like, what can we do to serve you? And so we want to hear what your goals are. We want to hear,
That's right.
What memories are you planning and trying to make this year?
Right.
So this is a little bit different setup. So those are the kind of the first three principles that we have. If anyone has any questions or comments on that, please leave them in the comment section. Otherwise, we're going to start to move into kind of three more of an action step as far as planning, and give you some ideas about what you can do to, again, make the most out of this year and take advantage of some of the things that we just talked about. The first one is a concept that I heard from, his name's Jesse Itzler. He's a pretty well-known motivational guy. I follow him on social media. He is also the person that created the event that I did 2 years ago, the 29:09. And so he did a broadcast where he was talking about some of these concepts, and he brought up something called a misogi. And so essentially that event for me 2 years ago was a misogi. So misogi is I believe, Japanese term that represents a single year defining event. So when I say I want to look back at 2020 and say, or 2021, that's the year I'm going to remember I did that event. Where for those of you who don't know about it, in Utah, I hiked a mountain 13 times within 36 hours to hit the vertical equivalent of Everest. And so it was just an amazing event. It was certainly a misogi. And so I learned a ton going through that process. The biggest one was, it's not about the end result. It's about what you were just talking about. It's about the process of getting to that end stage, right? Like, and that's what I was ultimately looking for when I signed up for it, because I had not been being very active. I needed to just get out of my rut. And so that was I needed an event like that to motivate me to do all the things, right? Look at my sleeping, look at my eating, look at my training, do something fun and different, right? And so for me, that was a misogi. And so my goal now is every year to do something like that. Now, it does not have to be as crazy as that was.
Right.
For some people, maybe it's writing a book or finishing a book.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, maybe it's learning how to do photography.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, it's,
learning a second language so they can go to Europe. For some people, it's getting what do you call those cards that you need to travel with?
Passport.
Passport.
Yes. And then doing traveling, right?
And then doing the traveling,
Yes. So the point is, it's a big enough event that it is like the exclamation point for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
You can look back in 20 years and say, wow, I remember I did that. This year I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when I look at myself and I look at, again, the future, let's say I've got 35 years left. I'm looking at 35 life-changing events that I'll never forget, right? Like at the end, I can look back and say, man, that was such a fun time. That was so cool. I got to do this. This was amazing. And so, but in order to do that, you have to be intentional. You have to find things to do that you care about and
find the support necessary to carry it out.
100%. And so, that would be something that I would encourage everyone to do this year. I'm still trying to figure mine out for this year. I'm not sure what it's going to be. There's a couple smaller things that I've been doing this year that I'll get into next, but it's not going to be Mount Everest again. I was actually looking at cycling. There's like this cycle through Ohio, like through Coba or something like that. I thought that was pretty cool, but I haven't committed to anything yet, so it's still on the drawing board. So if you have any cool ideas, let me know. I'm inclined to signing up for crazy things like that. Number 2 action step. So number 1 is figure out your year-defining event for this year. Number 2 would be, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but be hyper intentional. Go on the offense about scheduling. So my goal is at least every 2 months to schedule a weekend, a trip, an event, an outing that I wouldn't have normally done. So if I can get 5 of those in this year, and I multiply that by the next 35 years, that's over 2,000 new memories that I wouldn't have normally had. And so that's what I mean by being on the offense. It's extremely easy to let 1, 2, 3 months go by, and life has happened. Everything has just kept moving forward. And before you know it, it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to try to do a vacation this summer. Right? And so you kind of just wait on one vacation instead of being more intentional and making a little bit more use of your time. And it doesn't have to be extravagant trips, right? It could be ice skating. For me this year, I took up skiing, and I'm doing that with my kids. My son joined a ski club, and he's snowboarding. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take my daughter, and we're going to see if we can learn how to ski. And they love it. And I haven't died yet. So, I'm excited. That's exciting for me, right? But if I can I was just talking with a patient about this earlier today, right? If I can spend a couple hours on the weekend out of the house with my kids and they're okay with that, that's a win.
That's such a win. And there's so much more power behind, we talk about planning and making time for outings, excursions, and vacations and things like that. But if we change our language and we really understand no, I'm creating space and time for these memories.
Yes.
It's completely different. I feel that I myself am more motivated because it's easy just to let time go by. It's easy to just, put your head down to do your work, to continue to show up and just forget that, like, wow, like, I have an opportunity to create memories.
Right. And when you look at it through the memory lens, it's not, well, I don't have enough money to go do that. I don't have the time. Like,
No.
it has nothing to do with, trying to plan some extravagant or figure out how to pay for this. It is literally, what memory can I create that I wouldn't have normally created?
That's right. This is the kind of stuff that makes you want to have a pretend campfire in your living room and pitch a tent and make s'mores. Like, it just does.
Yep.
Yes.
Paint, right? Go get some things and like, okay, kids, we're gonna paint,
yes.
right? And you just paint, like,
I want to do that thing where you fill the balloons with paint and you throw darts at them and and it just makes art. So,
you do that and let me know. Let me know how that goes. But yes, absolutely. It does not have to be an event, a trip, a big, huge thing that you have to plan. It is literally, I'm choosing to be more intentional about memories that I'm creating. And yeah, as my kids are transitioning, I'm much more sensitive to wanting to create memories with them. However, my parents, right? There's also opportunities, and the same guy also talks about that, right? Like, okay, your parents are a certain age, and how many more phone calls do you get? How many more summer vacations do you get? Really being intentional about what that means and not taking it for granted. I think that's what being on the offense really means, and not just letting everything just continue to kind of slip by. And so there's a ton of power in that, and that would be my second action step for you, would be take a look at, again, those deeper relationships that you want to foster this year, and at least 5 or 6 times this year, like, figure out, how can I create a memory around some of those relationships? Maybe that's with yourself. Maybe it's just 5 times a year you're taking a day where you just, like, pour into yourself and do some self-care. Right?
Yes.
Like, there's sometimes that's it, right?
Yes.
Like, and that can be really powerful memories that makes a huge difference in everywhere else. So the third action step is to take your daily vitamins, but it's a little different than actually the supplements that we're normally talking about. These are things that fill you up. So running, exercising, sauna, reading, journaling, breathing, date nights, right? Like, anything that fills you up, try to do one of those things on a daily basis. For me, journaling lately has been something that I'm trying to do a lot more of. Between like breath work, journaling, exercising, I was just listening to a podcast last night actually, about how much exercise affects longevity. And it is, like, ridiculous the difference that just being more consistent with movement and exercise, like, what a huge impact on mortality that creates. And so I'm going to get more diligent with, walking, at least walking, going for a 20-minute walk, right? Like, something more intentional about that. So that would be the last kind of action step, would be, create your list of things that fill you up. It's going to be different for everyone, right? Reading the Bible, just reading in general, right? Turning Netflix off and, reading for 20 minutes is going to change your state. So, how about you? Any?
Reading for sure. Taking courses, like it really does fill me up. I love knowledge, and also I also am excited about movement in my body and exercising. So yeah, that just makes me feel more like myself. So,
Awesome. So, we are at the 30-minute mark, and we are open to questions. Anything you guys have? I think we've got a couple viewers here, but again, we're going to try to. So, if you do have a question or comment, specifically question, feel free to hit them up in the comment section here, and we'll start to address those. Otherwise, again, we are hoping to do this at least once a month. I think it's a great way to connect with everyone and just share where we're at as we're looking at our own lives. A little bit as far as, from an office perspective, kind of what we're focused on and working through. But more importantly, we want to connect with you and see where you're at and how we can support you more. So if you do have any questions or comments or ideas about things that you would like to have us do some of these lunch and learns on, please let us know. Shoot us an email, shoot us a text at the office. Again, this is all for your benefit for being part of this group. Any last words of wisdom before we head out of here? We don't get any questions.
I loved what you touched on as far as, just that relationship that you have with yourself, right? Because we were talking about, how if the only time I have is right now, and I understand that the relationship that I'm going to cultivate with myself is going to be one of the most significant relationships I'm going to create, because it's out of that place the overflow comes, and I'm actually giving out into the world. I will never forget hearing for the first time, one of the reasons it's the most important relationship is because the only person that you're actually guaranteed to be with from the moment you were born until the moment that you move on to the next phase of your life is you. And really living inside of that and making everything count, it just gives you a whole nother perspective shift.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, we will see you next time. Until then, have a great day.